you were raised by a bishop and a pastor. Um, how did that influence you growing up? And also, what on earth did your parents think when you first told them that you were training to become a professional wrestler?
Well, my father was a bishop right before he passed away. He had his church in Harlem, New York, well over 500 members he preached to. He had very strong political ties in New York, dealt with Hillary Clinton, former Mayor Giuliani, and Congressman Charles Rango.
Wow.
And he passed away in 2003 of cancer. And, it left a big gap in the family. My mother took over and became the first Black woman to ever pastor over 500 members in Harlem, New York. And so she's doing it, actually celebrating a 20th pastoral anniversary today as we speak.
Oh, that's incredible.
That I was just talking to her. She has a big billboard in Times Square with her face on it saying congratulations to Dr. Renee, Reverend Renee Washington Gardner.
Wow. That must make you feel so proud to see that. That's incredible.
Very proud. And, I grew up in a very Christian home. And, I'm 52 years old and I barely, I don't talk back at all, because it was very strict when I grew up. You didn't say the word dawn, damn, or hell, anything like that. Sometimes I'll slip every once in a while and then pretend like I didn't say it, look at me like, excuse me, so, I still hold very high respect for how I was brought up. My grandmother, who was the fist of the family, basically passed away in 1999. She was my heart. She was my soul. My mother was pregnant at 15, had me at 16. So she had me fairly young. So that's why my grandmother pretty much took over. And I was kind of like her son as well. But again, as God put it, faith was strong. And my mother got saved in 1997. We grew up in Brooklyn, New York, so it was rough. It was really, really rough. And she was out there in the world doing her thing. And then I asked her, this is when crack first came on the scene in 1983, and it was causing people to do things that wasn't right. Good citizens, good people that, went to work every day or what have you, took that first hit and was hooked.
Yeah.
And, it changed everybody's lives. So my grandmother and my great aunt said, we got to get him out of the projects because if not, we don't know what's going to happen. And they got me out. And my mother, I went to church with my aunt, and she was a devout Christian. And I asked my mother to come I was in the choir. I asked my mother to come to my choir anniversary because we were singing and doing our thing there. She came in, and from that point on, she had gotten saved. And that's where she met my stepfather, where they raised me and pretty much did what they, doing today. Now, in terms of how she felt when I chose pro wrestling, she was not happy. I had a 4-year scholarship to Florida A&M to play. And I changed high schools at the time because we left Long Island and moved to New Rochelle, New York. And, I was a star player in Long Island. But then when I got to New Rochelle, it just didn't click to me. And so I was having problems, when I was playing. But it was enough to be able to get that scholarship. And, I enjoyed football tremendously. But I just knew that my love for pro wrestling wasn't the same. And I could tell you who won the tag team titles in 1936, but I couldn't tell you who won the Super Bowl that year. That's how I knew. And so my senior year came about, and I told certain people that I was going to go to wrestling school, and they all laughed at me. They thought it was a joke because back then, pro wrestling, you didn't know how to get into pro wrestling. It was taboo-ish. You didn't know. It was kayfabe. And people laughed and made fun of me and joked and this and that. And I basically, just decided I was going to do it anyway. When I told my mother that, I was every name but my name. I thought she was going to break out her oil and start doing an exercise. She was mad because, I told my mother and I told my father, I said, listen, I don't want to play football anymore. I'm done. I'd rather get into pro wrestling. My father understood, but my mother was not having it. And she was very angry about it. We didn't speak for almost 10 years after that. I had to wind up leaving home because of it. It was out of respect. And she basically just lost it, and I just remember I said, I have to make it. Because if I don't make it, then people not only are going to talk about me, but they're basically going to ridicule me for the decision that I made for passing up a 4-year scholarship at Florida A&M. Listen, I could have lasted in Florida A&M. I could have been a big star. I could not have been a big star. I could have went to the NFL and played, but that doesn't mean I would have made it.
Yeah.
I could have been cut, after being drafted to a team. So it doesn't matter. Even if I would have made it to the NFL, who's to say that I would have had a long career?
Sure.
Who would have said I would last maybe a year or two? But I lasted in wrestling for 33 years. So therefore, I think I made the right decision in choosing pro wrestling.